Yes. Wa Brandon, hi, nakusikia. Gukwira atiriri, I not make it to the chama today. Unfortunately, nidage na ka emergency. You know my husband, haira turia ndagurite ciake Turkey. Imagine moja imekuwa dogo, so I need to rush back to Turkey to return it. Nyone ka niguona kingi. Kogwo abia hawa mama wengine I will not make it. Utaniambia tu fine ni how much. Sitakaa sana, I'll probably do 1 week tondu heira tu ngukirora but hii lazima nirudishe hiyo kiatu ndio avae next week akienda his briefing. Thank you, nitukwaria wa Brandon. Okay, thank you.
Maito.
How are you?
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good to see you. Look lovely.
Thank you.
Asa, good.
How are you?
Niko salama.
Thank you for coming.
Most welcome. Thanks for having me.
This is Life Journeys. I'm Georgina Njogu.
Auntie Jemimah.
Ladies and gentlemen, today on Life Journeys, I'm hosting the beautiful Auntie Jemimah. Already, she doesn't need an introduction.
Thank you.
So you can just get straight into it, okay? First of all, let me congratulate you on Maitumo Kafete 2.
Thank you.
And 1 also.
Thank you.
No, 1 you are not here, but
Yes.
1 and 2. And even the Mashinani edition.
Asante.
So far, Mashinani, you've done how many?
We've done 2. We've done Nanyuki and Karatina.
Now,
Yeah.
Auntie Jemimah, what is your real name?
My name is Wagari, Wagori. They also baptized me Masi. Don't know why. So Masi Wangari Wagori.
You don't like the name Mercy?
No.
So you prefer...
In fact, I prefer Wangari Ngori.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell us about your childhood.
My childhood was, it was a normal childhood, just like any other African child. Born and raised in Keno. Firstborn in a family of 3 kids. So unajua firstborns wakigrow ndio wazazi pia wanaamka, ndio wanajiamsha, ndio wana hustle. You're like a tester child. They want to see how they'll do both financially and also as a parent.
Yes.
So went through all those kuchapwa, kusoma, nini, you had to perform because you're a firstborn. Ni wewe una set pace for the rest. So grew up very well, started in a public primary school, Keno Primary School. Then
Ni wale watu wakisema tunaenda Ocha. Ocha ni super metro.
Sasa kwa nini unaniambia hivyo na ni ukweli?
Super metro.
So yeah, nikaanza hapo Keno Primary School. Then dad transferred me to Uthero Genesis School, private school. Yeah, then I did my class 8, performed very well. Scored 389 out of 500. I was admitted to Kijabe Girls High School.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in high school, when you start high school,
Yeah.
you have another part of your story.
Yes.
I don't want to preempt,
Okay.
but I want you to take us through it.
Okay. So Kijabe Girls High School Form 1. So I was a top performer. Remember, I scored 389 out of 500.
Yes.
So Form 1 I was top also kutoka position 1 to position 10 likuwa hapo. B and above. Then Form 2 ndio mtu jua mengi high school.
Yes.
Because now you've seen Form 1s coming in, so mnajua nyinyi si mono tena.
So
Form 2 hiyo nini kaniingia, that it is also the experimenting stage when you're in Form 2. So nikiwa huko Form 2 I was very active in games, so the students were like, I was very active in games, I was also funny, so I could attract attention.
Yes.
So they want to be around me even when you are not playing. So they were like, na wewe tutakupea assistant games captain. Ilikuwa nikajua na unajua ukipewa captain ama prefect,
Yes.
you are unaondolewa duties. So I was so happy, I was excited, I was looking forward to that. So tukafanya prefect selection and I think walinibia. Nikasema hizo games hata sitakuwa naenda. So I was in the main football team for the Kijabe girls. So when I did not go for practice, the games patron akanipe punishment. And I was like, yo, me I've come here to study, not to play. And you're punishing me for not playing. I wish it was for not going to class.
Yes.
I felt so, I didn't like it, so I decided to go home. I decided nitahipa shule. Went home, kaambia mathe what has happened. Akaniambia sawa we lala tutarudi kesho shule. The next day kurudishwa nikakuta nimeandikiwa makosa inatoshea black book. So I was suspended for 2 weeks. I went home, so during the suspension there was the firstborn.
Yes.
Umepewa suspension. So dad alikuwa na silent treatment. By the way hakuniongelesha the 2 weeks I was home.
Mlikuwa mnaangaliana tu?
Tunapitana tu. Uzuri anatoka asubuhi, jioni anakam. Kuna match story. So manzi yake na yeye pia nilikuwa nasikia akiniongeleshelea kwa maombi, akiomba, anaambia Mungu akumbuke wenye wako home. Aniiti my daughter. Anasema kumbuka wenye wako home na wengine wako shule. Kudema, nilikuwa nanitema. So 2 weeks zikaisha nikarudi. Nikarudishwa shule. But now, after going back to school, if you have ever been suspended or expelled, you know unaonewangwa sana.
Your reputation.
Yes, nivo. Every time there's something wrong in the school, you're among the first suspects. So because of that, I couldn't continue there. Nikaambia mom, naonewa sana. If you guys can just get me another school, I'll appreciate manze. Itakuwa poa sana. And that is what they did. So I got wakanitafutia shule iko Kangemi, inaitwa St. Martin's Girls Secondary School in Kibagare. Kibagare is a ghetto. After ukiingia Kangemi unaingia Loresho Estate, then after Loresho there is now Kibagare. So huko nako nilifika nikakuta every Sunday after mass, because it's a Catholic school, they allow girls to go outside the school and then come back at 5 p.m. So remember now this is my prime nini of teenage. So hapa ndio experimenting stage. You want to try new things, you want to do what people are doing, you want to flow with the nini.
Want to be the cool kid.
Yes. In fact, parents are told if your child does not change when they're in form 2, form 3, atamaliza shule, atakuwa sawa. So mimi I was among wenye wali change because
for the good or
for the bad. Because when you started going now out on Sundays, you know Kangemi has those days it had everything. I don't know the situation right now. Kuna makanga, kuna shops za everything. Drugs were easily accessible then. So iko hivyo tukitembea hivyo shetani ananiona niambia kuja nataka usupport biashara za watu huku Kangemi. Namwambia I don't have money, ananiambia it's not much. Hata unaweza lipa in kind, unaweza leta vitu tuna exchange goods and services. I'm like really? So that is how I found myself in addiction. Nikiwa form 3, and it was a turnaround, a 180 turnaround on my life, because a lot of things changed. I was this bubbly girl who carried attention, and then I was very quiet, not performing, kusumbua tu walimu class, ever high, and ikafika mpaka point I was expelled from St. Martin's. So when I was expelled, dad now knew what was happening. I was in addiction. And so ni kuchapwa na kutafutiwa shule ingine. So he looked for a school and got admission at Steph Joy. That time Steph Joy ilikuwa hapa Kangemi, hapo N. So nikaenda huko, now they told me to repeat form 2. So nikaenda nikakaa day 1, day 2, day 3 nikaona guys it's not working. Na sikuoga. 3 days sikuoga. I didn't shower.
Being rebellious ama ni
addiction.
Oh, so now you're withdrawing because you're not accessing the drugs anymore.
Yes, but I had some. Nilizipata zingine kwa nguo after we went for my stuff in St. Martin's. Then kuna vile tu drugs utakangi kuoga. Kuna vile tu unataka tu kiwewe. Oje notice hata watu wengi wa bangi, those who are really deep into it, they don't shower. So after 3 days I went to the principal's office. Her name is Mrs. Mugambi. And I told her, I'm a drug addict. Na ukikataa niende home nitaambukiza wasichana wako. Akashtuka. She was like, okay, so tell me more. She's a good woman. She knows how to handle, I think she's a counselor. She's a psychologist. Oh, okay, so what happened? Nikamwambia nini, nikamwambia hata hizo makaratasi uliletewa zangu transfer forms and tuliforge. Nilichomea mzae. They forged. Remember I was expelled from St. Martin's.
So there was nothing to show.
There was nothing to show. Na mzazi kama mzazi anakufa na mtoto wake. So akanifojia transfer forms, report forms, ndio nani akanikubali. So nikamwambia hizo zote kienda Udhero nitakuonyesha nani alitutengenezea kwa cyber. She was shocked, but she called my mom in the evening. It was late at night. Mom came because dad had traveled, alikuwa Kisii. Akakuja akalia. She was like, just kubali tu, I've left your brother and sister at home. Kambia, I want to, lakini imekata mom. Hatuwezi force. So we went home. And I knew nitachapwa vita ingine na mzae akirudi. So I was ready for that. In fact, alikuwa nakam akinipita na niko ready ndio. Anytime akiniamulia na I block. But he didn't chapa me day 1, day 2.
What had changed? Because initially
alikuwa ananiona vita, alikuwa ananiona war mbaya.
What changed now?
So what changed? So I've told you Mrs. Mugambi is a counselor.
Yes.
So she had a conversation with dad. akamwambia, I think she needs counseling. I think she needs to see either a psychiatrist or a substance counselor.
Yes.
So dad started now taking me for counseling. So tukaenda counseling to a few individuals, did not work. Because I'll tell you why. Unikumbusha nikwambie why it didn't work.
Yes.
So then now I started hearing a conversation about rehab. I asked my cousin, nasikia home wakiongelea juu ya rehab. Do you know what's a rehab? It's like, a rehab is an approved school. Utachapwa, mnafungwa na chains, ndio mwache kutumia drugs. It's like, uko uta manage. Because the withdrawals are very strong.
Yes.
If you saw me in a state of withdrawal, ungenihurumia tu, unaona kabisa mimi naenda. So kuambiwa ni hivyo na kazini yangu, so I hepared home for a few weeks. Nikatafutwa, nikapatikana, came back home, went to the first rehab. So that was not actually a rehab, it was more of a halfway home.
Yes.
For girls, for teenage moms, wenye wamepata watoi na hawana place ya kukaa ama wazazi wao wamewa disown. So I was like, I really don't fit in here because we don't share a common problem with them. So nilikuwa nimesema nitabaki, nikabaki, but walinipata home. And then after a few days went to another rehab in Karen. Huku mimi sikuwa naona nikiwa na shida by the addiction. An active addict doesn't see when like they have a problem.
They have a problem, yes.
Niliambia kina madhe, mimi naona ni kama mko na shida. So you guys go for counseling, not me. Not me. Yes. Nitawapeleka, yes, but nyinyi muingie. So that's what happened. Waenda kaingia. Mimi nilibaki kwa gari and they were told, yeah, we can't force her. So wakafanyiwa counseling because even parents or guardians of someone who has addiction also need to go through counseling to know how to handle the addict.
Okay.
Yeah. So they finished, they came, nikauliza mmesaidika, wakaniambia tuko sawa.
Okay.
Tukaenda home. Yeah. Then after a few days again, another rehab. I was like, okay, I'll just go for formality. Namjue mimi niko sawa. So we went to this other rehab, it's in Kiambu. The difference with this rehab is that I found addicts seated in a semicircle, and they had one seat for me, and then kina mom went in for counseling.
So ukabaki.
Nikaambiwa nikae hapo. So but I changed the seat, nikaitoa mahali ilikuwa, ikae karibu na gate, isikuwe ni mtego. Wakitoka tu natoka na wao. Amniachi huku. So I sat down, then they started introducing themselves. They were all men and young men. So they were like, my name is so-and-so, I am a recovering addict, been here for this long, this is so far so good, blah, 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 blah. All of them. So I could relate with so many of them, and especially the two teenagers who are there.
Yes.
Because you had teenagers who are using the rehab as a halfway home. They had done their rehab program, but were now they were going to school and coming back here.
Yes.
So I related so much with them, and I was like, something in me told me that you have a chance if you want to.
Yes.
Anyway. So by the time they were finishing, kina mom now walikuwa wamemaliza. So niliwaona tu nikasimama. So the rehab director was like, so Mercy, have you heard from these guys? Like, yeah, sasa wamefanya poa sana. Unawasaidia na wakikubali wanaweza saidika. So it's like, adios manze. Akaniuliza utabaki, nikamwambia akinataka sana. Kuna shughuli na Ivana, kuna deal na ngoja. Ivana nitakam. And we went home. Mom was so disappointed. So that was on 18th September 2006. On 19th, things were the same, but I don't know whether it was a psychological game, because that day it was like I knew it was my last day, because nililewa sana that day. And then on 20th of September, I woke up and I packed my things and I told mom I want to go to rehab. She was like, are you sure? But ulikata kubaki, tutatoa pesa wapi? Kaambia pesa itapatikana, God atapeana do. So she called my dad immediately. Oh, amekubali. Dad came quickly. Sijui ameka mbio hivyo. Tukaenda. So 20th September 2006, I was admitted. Did my 12 steps of recovery. Did group and individual therapy. And then I stayed there for the recommended 90 days. And then after 90 days, I was discharged. Did aftercare program. Kept going back, because even today I still go say hi, talk to the counselors. And then now January I went now to the 4th high school in Kirinyaga. Yeah. Changed person, performed, I was the top candidate.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's quite a journey.
Asante.
You mentioned earlier that counselors didn't work.
Right.
Why didn't they work? But before you answer,
okay,
let's have a seat. I don't want to make you stand any longer.
Sawa. So the reason it didn't work, this is what I always say, is because I was not going to substance counselors, substance abuse counselors. I was just going to two general counselors, and that is a problem you're having in the society, you find that when someone has a mental problem, people want to pray for you instead of taking you to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. When someone has a drug issue, alirogwa, alirushiwa mavitu, tuanze kumwombea kama familia, atafutiwe kazi, ama tumpeleke Saudi Arabia, ama Qatar, instead of just first taking him to rehab, a proper center where they will deal with him. So that was the reason it was not working with counselors.
Now you have completed high school.
Right.
Where does Wangari? It's Wangari, not
Yes,
Jemimah.
still Wangari.
Where does Wangari go at this point?
So Wangari wants to be a radio presenter. Always wanted to from when I was a small girl. So I was ready to do theatre arts. I knew theatre arts is only offered at KU. But upon communicating that to my father, he was like, huwezi fanya theatre arts na grade ya B. Ni waste. I was like, okay. You know, back then, theatre and arts was not appreciated as much. Even today, we're still having problems convincing some parents that I need to do this. I remember when I started doing the videos, at some point, okay, we'll come to that, but let me just mention, at some point, there was a guy, alikuwa na try, kunikatia. And the question he asked me was, so apart from huto tu video unafanyanga, na ako ka radio unaendanga, what else do you do? I was like, yo.
Ako ka radio
unaendanga. I was
so
like,
you were already on radio?
I was already on radio and he was asking me that. Then there was also another parent who was asking, so ameacha kazi afanye huto tu video. Huto tu video. Yeah.
Like
so back then,
they don't understand.
they expect you to have something else aside from arts. So back then, they did not appreciate arts as much. So mimi nilienda kufanya, nilisomea accounts. I studied CPA. Yes.
So you are an accountant by profession?
Yes, not by choice.
And and where do you start your content creation journey? I
start my content creation when I'm bored. Accounts is not my thing. I am not. Unajua na Kikuyu tunasemanga gorwere ya muthuguiti.
Yes.
In short, it says the heart wants what it wants.
Yes.
So I did my first. When I was doing my first video, I was doing it so that someone can notice me and remove me from accounts and take me into media.
So you had already seen the future of...
I had seen the future because that was 2016 and I had started seeing content creators doing stuff because that is when digital media started in, I think 2014, ndio iliamka kabisa, and it was mostly Njugush. He really inspired me. Alikuwa anafanya content, short videos na tunaenda. Then he started getting endorsements. I was like, oh, yo, so it's possible. Unafanya video na simu, you don't need to go to a media house, una post na unapata engagement. So me doing my first video was so that someone can get me out of accounts, put me where I rightfully belonged in media.
Yes.
And that is what happened. So 2016, the video I did for Auntie Waharia, ili trend sana. And started getting radio interviews. I did my first one here at Royal Media with Jeff Courier. And then after that, now things blew up because when I was trending, Radio Africa was launching the first vernacular station, Gokena FM. So this time when they are launching, they look for fresh talent, fresh blood. And that's when I got a call from the then PC, Anthony Gige. He's like, yo, are you Mercy? Yeah, we are looking for you because we'd like you to come for a voice test. Yo, I was like, yo, it's happening. Went, did my voice test, and that is how I got into radio.
You got into radio in
2016. However, I started, that was due, I think it was September. That was September. Actually, it was in November. So they called me for the voice test in Jan. And I did, they gave me the breakfast show to co-host as a tester.
Yes.
We didn't have chemistry with the host then. So I asked what else can I do. I was told to do a segment for 2 minutes. Nikasikia wameni waste. Nilikuwa nauliza kitu yote imejaa talent na mnanipet segment ya 2 minutes mnani waste. Kumbe 2 minutes is long in radio. Woo, I did not know. So I started doing it, 3 months probation, and then now ikakuwa approved, and I was given a contract, and I did that segment for 3 years. And that segment grew my brand on mainstream. Mtu anaweza kadharau nika kitu kadogo, but a lot of people were looking forward to that segment. I was bashing Kikuyu men, though they are not romantic. So that's what I did for 3 years. It did well, very well, and then I got a contract to do now a main presenter on Drive as a comedian.
You stayed in radio for how long?
7 years.
Then you left?
Then I left early this year in January, it was last month.
Why did you leave? And you always wanted this job.
Yes, correct.
Why did you leave?
I left because there was stagnation. I did not feel any more growth. There's always a point where you reach as a creative or even as a business.
Yes.
You have grown, and then there's that stagnation level where you just need to either pop or pop. So and then I had just started I did my first stand-up comedy show last year in 2023. And it did very well, and it's something I had always wanted to do. So I wanted to venture more into that, but also because digital has almost taken over, and so I wanted to concentrate now on digital.
Something significant happened in your life.
Right.
Life-changing.
Right.
A point where you announced that you had lost your baby.
Right. So in 2021, I conceived and had a beautiful pregnancy. No morning sickness, but I always tell people I carry my babies beautifully.
Yes.
But when I clocked 34 weeks, my water broke early at 34 weeks. I went to hospital. The first thing they check is the heartbeat. I noticed they were struggling to get the heartbeat. And so before I went to hospital, I called my doctor. I tell them I just passed some warm liquid, and I've gone into cramping immediately. She's like, you need to go to hospital now because I think you might have prematurely broken your membranes.
Yes.
So I call Mans. I tell him, this has happened. Come take me to hospital. So we rush to hospital. They struggle to get the heartbeat. Then he tells me, don't worry, because my biggest fear was going into CS. I wanted to have a vaginal birth. I was ready for it. I had exercised. I trusted my body that much.
Yes.
So he told me, don't worry. I think for him, the biggest fear was CS, because he knew that was my biggest fear.
Yes.
So he told me, in case they tell you to go for CS, just be prepared. I was like, I don't think it's CS. Me now kama wana struggle kupata heartbeat. Akaniambia tuwe tuende. So I went for an emergency 2D ultrasound, and then that's when the sonographer broke the news. And she told me, unfortunately, we do not have fetal activity. And it always gets me.
Sorry.
It's okay. It was the lowest moment of my life. I've had so many highs of my life. Achieving my dream in radio, again conceiving a child when I'm at the epitome of my career, and then the sonographer just told me, unfortunately, Mercy, we do not have fetal activity. I remember I broke down. I cried so much. So the next day they induced me. They told me, we do not want you to stay here long. We are going to induce you. You're going to push. And then so that we can release you, go start your healing process. They asked if I want to have therapy sessions in the hospital. I told them, no, I have my own therapist who I've already called. I'll go have the sessions after. So I gave birth the next day. I pushed a still baby. It was painful because she did not cry, but they allowed me to hold her. I remember the nurse asked me if I want to spend some time with her. I told her no. I just looked at her, took beautiful photos with my friend. I called a friend of mine who had gone through the same. She's the only one I wanted to be around with because she's the only one who would understand, who just let me cry, just let it out. And she would affirm every fear and everything I would say, which is very important. If you're going through something, I think it's important to go through it with someone who has probably gone through it, because you find people are very loose-mouthed when it comes to loss. And the way we deal with loss in Kenya and Africa, it's not dignified. I tell people, if you don't know what to say, just keep quiet.
It is okay to keep quiet.
Just stay there, keep quiet, let them be. In fact, what I tell people is just affirm whatever they're saying at that time. That is what they're feeling. If they're feeling that God has let them down, it's okay. At that point is not the time to tell them, no, God had other plans. Just affirm her. And don't blame mothers when they lose kids. That time when I lost my child, we lost a journalist she had just given birth, and then she lost her life, and she had done her baby shower on Sunday. So Sunday baby shower, Monday she lost. And you know the conversation on social media? It was baby showers inaua watoto. Wacheni kufanya hizo baby shower. Kama hangefanya hiyo baby shower, huyo mtoto wake angekufa. I was so mad. Because there's a mother grieving the loss of her child, there's a child who's been left by her mother, there's a husband who's been left with a small child by his wife, and the first thing people are saying, women are saying, it is baby showers. It is baby bump shoots. Mwache kwenda kuonyesha watu tumbo.
What happened when you posted that you have lost your child?
Oh, I received so much love. So much love from Kenyans. And then I received another group of women who were sharing in the same pain. They were like, oh my God, I just lost my baby. I lost my baby. My sister, my friend has lost a baby. And then there was another group of women who had come to encourage me and tell me, I have also lost, but I was able to conceive. So go through that phase, go through the grief period, but make sure you try again. Women in media, those are the ones who gave me that morale. Those are the ones who gave me that confidence of, so-and-so, I look up to so-and-so, she has gone through that, and look at her now. And my own mom telling me she had lost, but I did not know. That is what gave me more motivation.
Yes.
And I think we need to keep talking about it. I try to. I've actually come up with a foundation, a community where women can just come together and share. We just started. It's called Malaika Mama. We had our first group, a forum on the weekend after Mother's Day in May at Village Market. We just invite women to just speak about loss.
Okay.
Come talk to other women who've gone through the same. Could be loss of a child, could be loss of a family, marriage, or losing yourself.
Yes.
Because we tend to lose ourselves when motherhood and marriage comes.
Yes.
So just come encourage each other. Go do your marriage, go do your motherhood. It is beautiful and it is good to take breaks. Yeah, so, but I realize there's a gap that needs to be addressed around child mortality in Kenya, maternal health. And I wish the women we have elected as women representatives, I wish First Lady could also take that up. I loved what former First Lady was doing with Beyond Zero. Right now, and Linda Mama. Right now, it's quite, because this is where life begins, you know. After losing my child is when I realized that hospitals don't even have a holding area for women who've lost. They're put in the same wards with women who've delivered.
You later conceived.
Yes.
And you gave birth to your second child. How was that journey?
It was very traumatizing because I remember even when I realized I had conceived, I was in denial. I wanted a baby because the doctor told me the fastest way to somehow fill the void, not replace, fill the void, is to try again immediately. So I conceived after 3 months, but the moment I realized I'd missed my period, I tested. It was invalid, so I was like, oh, I'm not pregnant. But I went to the hospital to do the blood test. It was positive, but I was telling the doctor, so I'm not pregnant. It's like, no, Mercy, you're pregnant. I was in denial, and I was always worried about losing the child. We suspected it was gestational diabetes, because with this child, with the second child, I got it. And so even when we tested and I tested positive for gestational diabetes, I was in so much, the mind can play games. I was traumatized. I cried. I remember calling my boss, telling them, I've just been told I have gestational diabetes. Please allow me to go home. They were like, it's okay. But then the HR and the PC were very graceful to me. Take as much time as you want. Come back when you feel okay. So it was traumatizing. By the way, you keep thinking this one will die. There was a day she did not kick the whole, from morning to afternoon. I drove to hospital crying, like mtoto wangu amekufa. I was like, okay, fine, let's check ni nini. Wakaekelea na kanaanza kukik hapo tu. Wanasikianga tuko hosi wanaanza kukik. So she started kicking. I stayed there. They monitored me for a whole hour, and then I was released to go home. But because I lost this one at 34 weeks, I could not go beyond 35 weeks. I was already, nilikuwa nimefura juu ya pressure na kuogopa. So the doctor, we had that conversation.
Yes.
He told me we will induce you at 35 weeks so that we save you from all that pressure. Because pressure pia inaweza shoot juu ya kuworry. And that's what happened. 35 weeks I was induced, pushed. The only thing I was waiting for, Georgina, was the cry of that baby.
Yes.
She cried, I cried. I was so relieved. My mom walked in 3 minutes after I gave birth, and she told me my body went back to normal, to normalcy after that, because hiyo pressure iliisha, mwili ilirudi sawa. 3 minutes after birth. And she was healthy, she's good. She's now 1 year 9 months. Beautiful. She's Makeba Nduta. Oh, she's my miracle.
Let's go back to radio.
Okay.
You've left radio.
Yes.
Do you have a plan?
Yes, I have a plan.
What's the plan?
The plan is to go full hard on digital.
Yes.
And stand-up comedy.
Yes.
I think where we are right now, Kenyans are ready.
And they're supporting.
They're supporting. Yes. You just tell them where, when. Put up something very nice for them. They will come. Got very good vendors also for food and alcohol and other stuff. And we were ready to give them the show.
I think you are the biggest Kikuyu comedian.
Thank you.
And you're also the first to do a stand-up.
Correct.
This is after Njugush. He's
Yes.
the first person who ever did a stand-up, right?
Correct, yeah.
So how is your idea of Maitu Mukafeta? Was it inspired by Njugush? Because you had mentioned him earlier. Was
Yeah.
it also inspired by Njugush?
Njugush has had so much inspiration and impact on my career because like I told you, he's the one who made me see it possible to do small videos on social media. And then when he started doing stand-up comedy show, I was like, yo, so hiki tu ni possible. I always wanted to do stand-up, but I did not have someone to look up to.
Yeah.
But Njugush started this thing and I was like, he's even doing a diaspora tour. Yo, it's possible.
You are a Kikuyu comedian.
Right.
Mostly.
Right.
Apart from those that you can do in Swahili here and there. How is it being a comedian who is specific on a certain language?
It's beautiful because it's, I always tell people, because I get those questions, even when we're going to pitch for brands or when brands call us to present our insights and why we should work with them, they ask us, what about the non-Kikuyu speaking people? I tell them, this is our niche audience. Same way you are probably selling baby products. There's a reason you're in that niche and not any other products. So it's just a niche like any other niche, and that is the that is how I explain to people. And I also tell them, if Kikuyus are not buying your products, kuna kitu mbaya.
Yes.
Kuna kitu mahali mbaya. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's good to have that niche audience. And I always had fears of nitapata audience kidogo, but yo, it's beautiful. And it's also an encouragement to anyone who wants to start doing craft in your own language. Please do it. It's also a way of promoting our cultural practices and heritage. Yeah, we cannot lose who we are, so let's continue doing it.
How would you describe the content creation scene in Kenya?
Number one, in Kenya, it is very big. It is flooded. But the most beautiful thing about the flooding, it is flooded by people wenye wanajituma. Me, I'm looking at what Kina Kioko are doing with Kamba Fest. I'm like, yo, this is someone we've seen just start the other day, content creation, and look at the numbers he was able to pull for Kamba Fest. So mi nasema, this cake is too big for everyone. Everyone can fit in. Jitume, make sure you're authentic. Piga kazi, kila mtu anafaa kukula. Na God haezi kupe talent mali anajua kumeja.
Yes.
Hawezi, na Kikuyu tunasema itini nanagira nyeki. So you do your thing, bora tu usifungie wengine. Wherever you can help, assist. Unaweza pushia mse, mpushie. Unaweza kama kuona show yake na upige picha, enda upige show watu, chocha watu wakuje. Tusapotiane hivyo, let's grow together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as a comedian, do you first of all test your material before you go on stage?
Yes, we do. We rehearse for over 5 months.
And do you test it with an audience when you're
Yes.
testing?
We have a listening party and we also have a technical rehearsal with critics. Mostly for digital, most of them are very impromptu because content creators know saa ile unapata content iwachilie saa hiyo ikiwa na hiyo unaweza ona kitu kama saa hii nimeona yenye Crazy Kenali alifanya about how money works in the government. Already niko na content ya 2027 na nataka kuifanya. So sometimes that is how it works. Saa ingine uko tu kwa traffic kitu kanakuja, either ukaandike kama uwezi shoot, uende ushoot that time. But zingine, especially where brands are involved for endorsements, some require you to share the script before. Because remember, brands are also very careful on what you communicate with their brand. So kuna hizo zenye tunaandikanga script, we share with the client, aki-approve ndo tunashoot.
So, do you think content creation is a job like any other job, like the white collar jobs, that will be sustainable for people, even you as a mother, someone who has a family, you're able to cater for your family till the end? Yes,
it is. We intend to continue doing it because this is what God has given you. God haezi kupatia kitu yenye anajua utatumia for 1-2 years alafu ishe. I know people say there is a lifetime for a comedian, which they say is 5 years, but yo, look at kina Dave Chappelle. Look at people like kina Kevin Hart. They're still doing it, kina Trevor Noah. So it's just finding the right team to work with. It's just finding the right way to do things. And also, this is now where stakeholders come on board. How do we support the creative industry? It is making sure that even when they come selling you the idea, you've already consumed, you've seen how much influence we have on ground, how much people we can bring to your brand. Now let's collectively support the creative industry. Together with those we have elected our leaders, this is the only way we are going to make this creative industry work and sustain all artists in the long term. The other thing would be to the artists. We need to, I've been saying and I've been seeing it online, we need to have our own body that can be safeguarding us. That can be, because we go through a lot, especially with agencies. When you're working for a brand that has come on board through an agency, 90 working days is not working for us. This is the money we need to sustain our brand. So we need to have a body that can always now have one umbrella where we can be pushing and safeguarding our talent. Then we also need to, as artists, take this as a serious job. The only way someone will take you seriously is if you take yourself seriously. Sure. So tuache kuchomeana soko. We have market rates of what we are doing right now, but sometimes unaenda unapata, like I'm also an MC, I MC events. Unaenda unapatiana rate card. Unaambia this is how much I charge for a wedding. Hey, hiyo yote. Kuna mtu ananipenda 20k na anakuja baka na PA. So I'm charging you for skill that I have accumulated over years. I'm also charging you for time. And I'm not just coming, I'm coming to entertain your guests. Yo, that's a full-time job. So pia watu waanze kuchukulia hii kama kazi serious. Na sisi artists tukichukulia serious, that's the only way others will take us seriously.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, you have done My Tomoka Fete 1 and 2.
Yes.
And you have started your Mashinani tour.
Right.
What was the inspiration behind the Mashinani tour?
So the inspiration behind Mashinani is to also reach out to the people out of Nairobi. Number one, to inspire young talents over there that it is possible. So we want that talent, that young girl, that young man, or an old man who wants to start his talent, akuje na aone it's possible. So our vision was to also uplift talents huko Mashinani, not just in Nairobi, ndio waone hii kitu ni possible. Okay. And then now to the county governments, tuanzishe, tukuze talanta na creative support. Let's have auditoriums in these major towns. Let's have actually in every town government auditoriums where people can come and showcase their craft.
If you have any last remarks, maybe to an upcoming content creator, to maybe a mother who has lost a child.
Yeah.
Just your last final remarks.
Okay. I'll start with a mother who's lost her child. I'm really sorry. And I pray that, and I send you a lot of grace during this grieving period. Try again. If you can, try again. It is possible. But I hope you go through the grieving process the right way. See a counselor, see a therapist, get a supportive group of people. Reach out to me if you need that. And if you are, if you're supporting a grieving mom, please just give them your best. Keep quiet if you have nothing to say. And then to upcoming or content creators, you have got to keep showing up for yourself. Keep showing up for your brand. You're the only one who knows how far you want to go with your talent. So you've got to keep showing up na ujitume. Talent industry imejaa sana. So lazima ujitume. But it is possible.